Okay, for these big scales, and I only have them on this side and on this side, the two edges. I do have some in the middle, but these are smaller. But for these big scales, what I ended up doing is I got a kitty cat headband from one of my girls, and I cut off the ear thing, and then I used it as a pattern, and I used it to cut out off of milk cartons the plastic so that they're hard and they'll stand up. These scales are 2 inches wide. I measured each flap is an inch, and what I ended up doing is taking these, and then I would put them on here. I would kind of do something like this. Wait a minute. Something like this, to where I would put it down like this. Of course, I would round off these edges first. You might see some of it like here, to kind of look more like a scale. And then I would generally take a clothespin. I would glue these flaps down when they were rounded off. Glue them down onto, it would hold the back of it, and then it would hold the front of it. And then I would take a clothespin and hold them together while they're drying with the one in front of it, so that way it would stand up when it was dried. And for the most part, it pretty much did good. If you didn't know how I did this, all I did was just tuck in the corners around the material around this, and that really was not that hard to do. You just poke in the edges, and I mean, I can't show you because it's already done, but all I did was just poke in the edges and then glue these in here, so you can kind of see it, how that was done. For these inner scales, which you probably can't hardly tell the difference, but since it was on a higher in the middle, it did need it to be smaller. So all I did was just take my original patterns and just cut, into them a little bit so that they were smaller. And I might have a pattern. Yeah, it's a little bit smaller than, this is my outside scales and these were my inside scales. I did the same as I did here. I usually had 2 pieces of material on each side so that I could take them and glue them down, and then I would do the same thing, glue them, hold them to the other one, and of course I would round off the edges before I would start. If you use like tacky glue, which might be more durable, I don't know. I did almost all these with tacky glue, and I literally only did like 1 scale a day. It took me forever, but we was in lockdown anyway, so it didn't matter. These scales on the body though are a lot different. They're actually pretty tiny compared to these scales over here. It's hard for me to show you how I did it because I really only have like this much material left over. I used everything that I have, but I'm gonna take this and see if I can kind of show you. All I did was just get a square, and I just basically did this kind of fold on the square, and this has extra. I would cut that off, but and then I was able to, if you see it up close, fold it and just glue it to the alligator. At this point, I was smart enough to figure out to use a hot glue gun, because I wouldn't have been able to get these to stay on using the tacky glue, and the hot glue worked a lot better and was a lot less time consuming because you didn't have to wait for drying. The scales I just cut out. You can kind of see the different shapes. These I left squared on the edges, and then rounded them out. I would sometimes have to cut out a little notch here and there, but I left them rounded. You can't see underneath it, but they're both shaped the same. And I did all these, and then there was some gaps left, and I would just take little pieces of material and cut out kind of round or oval, just kind of make it look scaly. And I covered everything on the gator. on the top in between the scales. I played these by ear. I kind of, every single one is a different shape, different size. These are a lot bigger, you know, based upon where you need them, how much space you need to cover. And I, you know, down here, of course, on the tail doesn't need as much, so I made smaller ones. Okay, for the eyes, I took these off of a big stuffed animal. It was actually a unicorn. We ended up using the stuffing to fill the alligator. It took a ton of stuffing. My husband also got a big shark on sale for only $5. It wasn't a nice shark, but between those two and some of the extra stuffing that we had and pillows, we actually didn't have to spend any money on the stuffing of this alligator. I ran out of this colored nail polish. My daughter did nail polish on this, and I'm going to have to just use a different color to cover this. I put holes. I don't know if we'll be able to see them. I put holes in here, and we're going to put the eyeball in there. And I went ahead and just cut out some material, which is going to be the eyelid. So we'll do that one next. I'm about to do the eyes, but I forgot to mention, last time I said that we had left it kind of open here to stuff the alligator, and we did. We had to really get it all, make sure you get a lot in the head. The head was kind of flat, and we had to restuff it more than once because it kept kind of going flat. So you have to make sure you get a lot of stuffing in there. But you probably guess you have to, you know, sew the rest of it back together once it's all stuffed. And we kind of had to sew and stuff and sew and stuff, because as you get towards the bottom, you hardly have any opening at all to get the stuffing in. I had to turn this over for a second so you could see what I did. I just did a pattern, just kind of started here, and then you kind of go from there, just make it bigger as I went, kind of leveled off, did all the belly. You'll notice I didn't really do the legs or under the tail. I'm going to just go ahead and paint those, and hopefully some of the spray of the paint come in a little bit, because you can see some of the underbelly when it's sitting upright. We was trying to use this nail polish, this like bluish nail polish, but we ran out. And we ran out of the nail polish that was underneath it, so we finally went and bought another nail polish at the dollar store. The rest of this Gorilla epoxy. This was really cool. I really liked this epoxy. This is optional. You don't have to have epoxy, but it will help the paint from chipping.